Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving into another section of the Manual of Patent Examining Procedure, the MPP.
Yep. Continuing our journey through Chapter 1800, all about the PCT, the Patent Cooperation Treaty.
And today we're zeroing in on MPP Section 1856. The title is Supplementary International Searches.
Right. And the sources describe this as an optional procedure, something you can do during the international phase with a PCT application.
Optional. Okay, that always catches my ear. Not something you have to do, but a potential tool.
Exactly that. It's elective. Think of it as an extra layer of searching you can opt into during that international period.
Okay, let's get into it then. Our mission for this deep dive, really unpack this supplementary international search, the SIS. What is it really? Why might you as an applicant actually want one? How do you request it? What are the critical rules and deadlines?
Yeah, the practical stuff.
And then what do you get out of it? How does it fit into the bigger picture of your patent strategy? We're pulling all this straight from the MPP section provided.
Sounds good. So, first things first, what exactly is an SIS? Well, at its heart, it's pretty much what the name says. It's a search that's supplementary to the main international search report, the ISR, that every PCT application gets.
So you get your standard ISR from your chosen international searching authority, the ISA. And this SIS is another go, another search.
It is. But here's a really crucial detail from the MPP text. This supplementary search has to be done by a different ISA.
Ooh.
Not the same one that did your main search. You can't just ask the original ISA to do an SS. It must be a different authority.
Ah, okay. So it's like getting a second opinion, but specifically from a different expert group. That feels like a key distinction.
It really is.
So main search happens. Then you can choose to have another authority do a search.
Yeah.
What's the overall point? Big idea.
The stated goal, reading from the section, is to improve the breadth and depth of the prior art search during that international phase. Basically, trying to find more potential issues earlier, cast a wider net,
Okay, casting a wider net. That leads straight to the why. Why bother? Why pay more fees and go through extra steps for this? What's the practical benefit?
Well, the main reason highlighted in the material is about reducing surprises down the line.
Right.
Trying to lessen the chance you get hit with really significant, unexpected prior art after you finish the international phase and you're entering the national phase in different countries.
Yeah. Nobody wants that bombshell reference popping up late in the game. Finding it earlier is almost always better.
Absolutely. Finding it late can mean delays, extra costs, maybe even forcing major changes to your claims or worse.
So this SIS is a way to potentially front-load some of that discovery.
Exactly. And the MPP section points out where it can be particularly valuable. Situations where your invention might touch on prior art in, say, different languages, or maybe it spans technical fields where the first ISA might not have the deepest database or expertise.
Like that chemical example they mentioned.
Precisely that one. Imagine a chemical invention. Your main search is done by an ISO primarily focused on English language documents.
Okay.
But maybe you suspect there could be important prior art in French or Japanese journals specific to that chemical area. Requesting an SIS from authorities strong in those languages could potentially dig up relevant stuff the first search missed.
Because of language barriers or maybe just different database access?
Right. It's about strategically using the different strengths and resources of various ISAs around the world.
Makes a lot of practical sense. It's like saying, okay, ISA number 1 did a good job, but I have a specific concern about prior art in this area, maybe in German. So I'll ask the German proficient ISA to take a supplementary look there. It feels quite targeted.
It can be very targeted, yes. A strategic choice.
Okay, so let's say you're convinced. This sounds useful for your situation. How do you actually start the process? What are the steps, the rules?
So the governing rule here is PCT Rule 45 bis. And the first key procedural point is where you send the request. It doesn't go straight to the authority you want to do the search.
No. Where then?
It has to be submitted to the International Bureau, the IB, in WIPO.
Okay, the central administrative body. Send the request to the IB. What needs to be in that request?
The usual application details who the applicant is, agent info, the international application number, but critically you have to clearly state which specific ISA you've chosen to perform this supplementary search.
And remembering it has to be a different one from the first.
Correct. And you also need to make sure any necessary translations of the application are provided so the chosen authority can actually read and understand it to do the search.
Right, choosing that authority. That comes back to the strategy, doesn't it? You'd pick based on language or technical specialization or maybe database access you think they have.
Exactly. You're selecting the ISA whose specific capabilities seem most likely to uncover the kind of prior art you're concerned about, complementing the initial search.
Makes sense. Now, deadlines. Patent law is full of them. What's the timing on this SIS request?
Okay, this is critical. The request itself, the actual submission to the IB, must be done before 22 months have passed since the priority date of your application.
22 months from priority. That's a hard stop.
A very firm deadline, according to the MPP, before 22 months is up.
Got it. Before 22 months. And money. I assume this isn't free.
Definitely not free. There are two distinct fees involved here. First, there's a supplementary search handling fee. That one goes to the IB, further work processing the request.
Okay, IB handling fee. And the second?
The second is the supplementary search fee itself. That fee goes directly to the ISA that you've chosen to actually perform the supplementary search.
Right, paying the people doing the work. Two fees. IB handling and the ISA search fee. What's the deadline for paying those?
Another really critical deadline. Both of those fees, the handling fee to the IB and the search fee to the chosen ISA, must be paid within 1 month from the date you submitted the SIS request to the IB.
1 month. Oh, okay, so you decide to do it, file the request before 22 months, and then you've only got 1 month to get both payments sorted out. That's fast.
It is a tight turnaround, yes. You need to be ready to make those payments quickly after requesting.
What if you mess up? Miss the 22-month request deadline? Or maybe you request on time but fumble the 1-month payment deadline?
The consequences are quite severe, as laid out in the MPP. If you fail to pay both required fees within that 1-month window, or if your initial request arrives at the IB after the 22-month deadline, the request is essentially dead in the water. It's considered void, or it's declared as if it was never submitted in the first place.
Whoa, no second chances. No late fees accepted.
The text suggests it's pretty automatic. Miss the deadline, the request is invalid. Full stop.
Okay, so message received. Dot your I's, cross your T's, and watch that calendar like a hawk if you're going for an SIS.
Absolutely crucial. Diligence is key.
All right, let's assume you do navigate all that successfully. You file the request with the IB before 22 months. You paid both fees within the 1-month window. What's the next step in the chain?
Okay, so the IB gets the request and confirms everything's in order, timing, fees paid, etc. Once they've verified it's a valid request, their job is to forward it, along with the necessary application documents like the description, claims, drawings, and any required translations.
Forward it
to the supplementary authority that you chose in your request.
Okay, and when that supplementary ISA gets the package, do they know what the first ISA found? Or do they start completely fresh?
The MPP says they may take the earlier search report, the ISR, or the written opinion from the first ISA into consideration.
May. So it's optional for them, too.
It seems so. They aren't required to ignore it, but the implication is they're conducting their own independent search based on their resources and expertise. They might use the first report as context, perhaps?
Okay. And timing-wise, do they jump right on it as soon as the IB forwards the documents?
They have some flexibility there, too. The MPEP notes the authority can delay starting the actual supplementary search.
Delay until when?
They can wait until the earlier of 2 dates, either when they've received all the necessary documentation from the IBEB, the complete package, or when the application hits that 22-month mark from its priority date.
Ah, so they might wait until that 22-month point anyway, possibly to align with other PCT timelines, even if they get the papers a bit sooner.
That seems to be the idea, yes. It allows some synchronization within the overall process.
Interesting. Now, let's talk scope. What exactly does this supplementary authority search? Do they look at all the claims in the application? What if there are multiple inventions claimed, the whole unity of invention issue?
Yeah, limitations definitely come into play, and unity of invention is a big one, just like it is for the main search.
Okay, the principle that claims should all tie back to a single core inventive concept. How does that work with the SIS?
This is actually a really interesting feature, offering some potential strategic value. If the original ISA, during the main search, found a lack of unity, meaning they said, hey, you've got multiple distinct inventions here.
Right, happens all the time.
The applicant can then specifically request that the supplementary search focus on one of those other inventions. Maybe one that wasn't searched in detail by the first ISA because of that unity objection.
Oh, hang on. So if the first search only really covered invention A because they said A and B weren't unified, you could use the SIS to specifically ask this second authority to search invention B.
That's exactly what the text allows for. It's a way to potentially get a dedicated search on a different inventive thread within your application using that SIS mechanism.
That's actually quite clever. A way to get broader coverage despite an initial Unity issue.
It is. But, and this is a big but, there's a very strict limit described in the MPP section.
Okay.
Supplementary searches are limited to searching only one invention or one single group of inventions that are considered unified.
Just one. So unlike the main search, where you can sometimes pay extra fees to get additional inventions searched if there's a Unity objection,
Correct.
that option does not exist for the SIS. You can't pay the supplementary authority more money to search invention C as well.
The MPP is very clear on this point. Zero opportunity to pay for additional inventions in the SIS context. It's strictly one invention or one unified group, period.
Okay, that's a really important distinction. One shot, one invention for the SIS scope. Good to know. What happens if the supplementary authority, looking at the invention you ask them to search, also thinks there's a lack of unity within that group of claims?
That's also possible. If the supplementary ISA makes their own finding of lack of unity within the claims they're supposed to search, they can restrict their search based on that finding.
Okay.
If they do restrict the search, they have to tell the applicant why. And the applicant then gets a chance to ask for a review of that unity decision made by the supplementary authority.
So unity can still bite you, even within the SIS, but there's a review path.
Correct. There's a mechanism to challenge it.
So assuming the search goes ahead, gets completed, what's the final product? What does the applicant get back?
The end result is a report called the Supplementary International Search Report, the SISR.
SISR. Is there a deadline for when that report has to be finished and sent out?
Yes, there is. The supplementary authority is required to issue the SISR within 28 months of the application's priority date.
28 months from priority for the SISR. Okay. And what's typically in that report?
It will contain the citations, the list of prior art documents that the supplementary authority found during their search. And it should also include explanations about why those documents are relevant, specifically in relation to the claims or invention that was the focus of their supplementary search.
So tailored to what they actually looked for.
Exactly. Now, what if for some reason they just can't do the search? Maybe there are legal restrictions in their country or some other condition prevents it?
Does that happen? What then?
The MPP mentions this possibility. If the authority determines they really cannot carry out the supplementary search effectively, they don't just stay silent. Instead of an SISR, they issue a declaration.
A declaration.
Yeah, basically a statement saying that the search couldn't be done and explaining the reasons why, so you still get an official outcome, even if it's not the search report itself.
Okay, so either you get the SISR with the art they found, or you get a declaration explaining why no search was possible. Got it. Let's pull back now, connect this all back to the listener, to you. We've covered the what, why, how. What's the real takeaway value here? Why consider this optional extra step?
Well, it really loops back to that primary goal we talked about.
Yeah.
Boosting the quality and the international scope of your prior art search before you commit to the national phase.
Right. Getting a better look earlier.
By proactively using an SIS to dig deeper, especially in those areas like different languages or specific technical niches, think back to that chemical example needing maybe a French or Japanese search.
Yeah.
You potentially uncover things the first search missed. This makes your understanding of the prior art landscape much more robust.
Which feels like it should lead to better informed decisions later.
Precisely. Finding potential roadblocks earlier via the SIS can really smooth out the national phase process. Less chance of sudden, nasty surprises, fewer protracted arguments over art found late in the day. It's an investment in clarity and potentially saves a lot of time, money, and stress down the road. It's about managing risk.
Making the path forward a little less uncertain. I can see the appeal.
Definitely.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, we do want to give a special thank you to Mike Shepard, the creative director who organized this whole audio series.
Yes, thank you, Mike. And of course, the necessary disclaimer. This summary of the MPEP was generated using AI tools, including ChatGPT and NotebookLM. It might contain errors or omissions. It's really for general educational and informational purposes only. It is absolutely not legal advice or a substitute for proper training. For authoritative guidance, you always need to consult the official MPEP itself, a qualified instructor or a registered patent practitioner.
Absolutely. Critical reminder.
Yeah.
So to sum up MPP 1856, the Supplementary International Search, or SIS, is that optional tool in the PCT international phase. Lets you request an additional prior art search from a different authority than your main one.
Right, the goal being a broader, deeper look at prior art, especially helpful across different languages or technical fields.
Aiming to reduce those late-stage surprises during national entry.
And just remember those key constraints: the 22-month request deadline, the 1-month fee payment deadline, and that strict limit only one invention gets searched in the SIS.
It really does make you pause and think, doesn't it? The whole idea of strategically choosing that second searching authority. You're placing a bet, really, based on where you suspect the most relevant, maybe hardest to find prior art might be lurking perhaps in a specific language database or a niche technical journal index somewhere. It just highlights how complex the idea of a truly global patent search is. How much crucial information might still be out there, only discoverable if you specifically ask a different expert in a different place to look. How does leveraging that SIS option fundamentally shift your strategy for seeking international protection?
That's a really interesting question to ponder. How complete can any single search truly be?
Food for thought. That wraps up our deep dive into MP Section 1856. Join us next time as we continue exploring the intricacies of patent procedure.
Until then.